The starlight filtering through Nova Station's observation dome cast long shadows across the recycled metal floors. Sarah Chen pressed her hand against the reinforced glass, watching the distant stars shimmer through the perpetual ion storm that surrounded their small outpost. At 12 years old, she knew every crack in the station's walls, every quirk of its aging life support systems, and every face among the 300 souls who called this fragment of humanity home. Nova Station wasn't much to look at. A collection of interconnected modules and repurposed cargo containers orbiting a dying star. But it was strategic, sitting at the crossroads of 3 major trade routes, or at least it had been, before the ion storms began growing stronger, before the trading vessels started choosing safer paths through the void. Sarah's parents were part of the engineering team struggling to keep the station's shields operational against the increasingly violent stellar weather. She'd inherited their technical aptitude, spending her free time helping repair maintenance drones and studying the complex dance of particle physics that made interstellar travel possible. But lately, even her parents couldn't hide their concern about the station's future. The soft chime of approaching visitors echoed through the observation deck. Sarah ducked behind a support column, not wanting to explain why she wasn't in the education module. Through the geometric patterns of shadow and light, she watched as Station Director Collins led a tall, elegantly dressed figure toward the viewing area. The visitor wasn't human. Their form was liquid silver, flowing like mercury given shape, with patterns of light rippling across their surface in complex mathematical sequences. A meridian, one of the wealthy merchant species that controlled most of the galaxy's luxury trade. Sarah held her breath, not daring to move. Meridians rarely visited struggling outposts like Nova Station. As you can see, Collins was saying, his voice strained with forced politeness, our location is still ideal for a trading hub. We just need additional shielding resources to weather these storms. The Meridian's response came in perfectly modulated tones, translated by the station's communication systems. Your position is indeed advantageous, but investing in outdated human technology would be inefficient. We prefer more elegant solutions. Sarah's fingers curled into fists. She'd heard that tone before, the casual dismissal of human achievement, the implicit suggestion that they should simply abandon their homes and let more advanced species claim them. The Meridian moved closer to the window, their silver form reflecting the starlight like a mirror. However, they continued, I may have something that could interest you. They gestured, and a hovering transport drone emerged from the corridor. It carried a large crystalline container, inside which something pulsed with its own inner light. A rare specimen, but flawed. Unsuitable for my purposes, but perhaps valuable to a station in your position. Sarah leaned forward, curiosity overwhelming her caution. Inside the container, suspended in a glowing fluid, was an egg. Unlike anything she'd ever seen, its surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. But there was something else, a subtle imperfection in the patterns, a disruption in their perfect symmetry. A star dragon egg. The Meridian explained, noting Collins's shocked expression. One of the last of its kind, capable of navigating quantum space itself. Unfortunately, this one's genetic structure is damaged. It will hatch blind, unable to perceive the quantum pathways that make its species so valuable. Useless for trading purposes, but its innate energy could power your station's shields for decades. Collins stepped closer to the container, his face reflected in its crystalline surface. And the price. Merely your exclusive trading partnership, once your station is properly secured. The egg's energy would ensure your survival, and my merchants would have a guaranteed safe harbor in this sector. A mutually beneficial arrangement. Sarah's heart raced. She'd heard stories of star dragons, but they were supposed to be extinct, hunted to oblivion centuries ago for their ability to create stable wormholes through space. The idea of sacrificing one, even a blind one, to power their shields made her feel sick. The station's lights flickered, a reminder of their precarious situation. Collins sighed, running a hand through his gray hair. "I'll need to consult with the station council. We can reconvene in." A violent tremor cut him off. Warning klaxons blared as the latest ion storm slammed into their shields. The crystalline container shook, slipping from its drone's grasp. Sarah moved without thinking, diving from her hiding place. She slid across the floor as the container hit, catching it seconds before it could shatter against the metal deck. The egg pulsed in her arms, its pattern swirling faster. Through the crystal, Sarah swore she felt something. A presence, a consciousness, reaching out in confusion and fear. "Well," the Meridian said, their silver surface rippling with what might have been amusement, "it seems the station's young ones have a talent for salvage." They turned to Collins. "I will return in 3 cycles. Consider my offer carefully. The storms are only growing stronger, and you have few options left." Sarah stood slowly, still cradling the container. Collins gave her a sharp look that promised a serious discussion about skipping classes, but the Meridian was already gliding away, their drone following silently. The egg pulsed again, and this time Sarah was certain. She felt a response, a gentle probe of emotion and imagery. Not just fear now, but curiosity, recognition. The patterns on its surface began to align with her own heartbeat. "Director," she said, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts, "you can't do it. You can't sacrifice a living being, even for the station." Collins took the container from her carefully. "Sometimes survival requires difficult choices, Sarah. You're too young to understand." "I understand plenty," she interrupted. "I understand that if we start treating lives like batteries, we're no better than those who look down on us. There has to be another way." The director's expression softened slightly. "I hope you're right, but hope doesn't keep our shields powered." He handed the container to a waiting security officer. "Take this to the secure storage lab. We'll let the council decide." Sarah watched them leave, but her mind was already racing. She'd felt something when she touched that container. A connection, a possibility. The egg wasn't just some power source to be drained. It was alive, aware, and somehow, she knew it had chosen to reach out to her. She waited until the observation deck was empty before pulling out her tablet, fingers flying across its surface as she accessed the station's maintenance schedules. The secure storage lab would be running diagnostic scans tonight, its security systems briefly offline for updates. It wasn't much of a window, but it would have to be enough. The egg had reached out to her, and she wasn't about to let it down. Whatever happened next, she knew this was more than just about saving their station. It was about proving that humanity's strength lay not in what they were willing to sacrifice, but in what they were willing to protect. As she made her plans, the stars continued their eternal dance beyond the station's walls, and somewhere in the secure storage lab, an egg pulsed in rhythm with a human heart, waiting for its chance at freedom. Sarah's hands trembled as she input the final override code into the maintenance panel. 3 weeks of planning had led to this moment. The secure storage lab's backup systems would be offline for exactly 7 minutes during the scheduled diagnostic scan, 7 minutes to change everything. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The crystalline container sat in the center of the lab, bathed in the soft blue light of monitoring equipment. As Sarah approached, the egg inside began to pulse with increasing intensity, its pattern spiraling in recognition of her presence. "I'm here," she whispered, quickly disconnecting the monitoring devices. "I'm getting you out." The container was heavier than she remembered, but adrenaline gave her strength. She carefully placed it in the maintenance cart she'd prepared, covering it with spare parts and diagnostic tools. Her heart pounded as she pushed the cart through the corridors, expecting alarms to blare at any moment. But her timing was perfect. The night shift was changing, the corridors empty save for the occasional maintenance drone. She'd mapped every security camera's blind spot, every route that would avoid the busier sections of the station. Within minutes, she reached her destination, an abandoned storage compartment in the station's outer ring. Sarah had spent days preparing the space, setting up heating units and converting an old stasis pod into a makeshift incubator. As she transferred the container inside, the egg's pulsing grew stronger, more urgent. The patterns on its surface were shifting faster than she'd ever seen. "Are you?" She pressed her hand against the crystal. A surge of emotion flooded through her. Anticipation, readiness, determination. The egg was ready to hatch. The crystal surface began to vibrate, hairline cracks appearing across its perfect geometry. Sarah quickly opened the container, her breath catching as she made direct contact with the egg for the first time. It was warm, almost hot, the patterns now moving like liquid light beneath her fingers. With a sound like breaking glass, the egg's surface split. Light poured from the cracks, filling the small compartment with shifting colors that danced across the walls. Sarah shielded her eyes, heart racing as she heard something move, followed by a soft, questioning chirp. When she lowered her hand, she found herself staring into eyes that swirled with galaxies. The creature was about the size of a cat, its body covered in scales that seemed to capture and reflect starlight. Delicate wings stretched from its shoulders, their membranes so thin they were almost transparent, showing the complex network of energy flowing through them. But the Meridian had been right about one thing. The dragon's eyes, though beautiful, were unfocused. It turned its head toward sounds, toward the heat of her body, but its gaze never quite settled on anything. "Hello," Sarah whispered, slowly extending her hand. The dragon's head snapped toward her voice, nostrils flaring. It took a hesitant step forward on unsteady legs, then pressed its snout into her palm. The connection that followed was unlike anything Sarah had experienced. Images and emotions flooded her mind, not sight, but something deeper. The dragon perceived the world through quantum fluctuations, sensing the very fabric of space-time. Its blindness didn't matter because it saw things no eyes could perceive. Luna. The name came to her naturally, carried on the tide of shared consciousness. "I'll call you Luna." The dragon, Luna, chirped in approval, the sound carrying undertones that made the air shimmer. She climbed onto Sarah's lap, her scales warm against human skin. Through their connection, Sarah felt Luna's curiosity about everything. The station's humming systems, the distant song of stars, the complex patterns of human thought. But there was something else, an underlying urgency that made Sarah's skin prickle. Luna's head turned toward the observation window, her wings spreading slightly. Through their bond, Sarah saw what the dragon perceived, a massive disturbance in the quantum field, approaching faster than any normal sensors could detect. Warning klaxons blared moments later. "Attention all personnel." The station's AI announced, "Massive solar flare detected. Impact in 15 minutes. All residents report to shielded sections immediately." Luna pressed closer to Sarah, sharing more detailed images. The flare wasn't just massive. It was unlike anything in the station's historical records. Their current shields wouldn't hold, even at maximum power. "We have to warn them," Sarah said, standing with Luna cradled in her arms. "But how can I explain?" She couldn't reveal Luna's existence, but she couldn't let the station face this unprepared. Luna chirped again, this time with determination. The dragon's scales began to glow brighter, and Sarah felt a new idea form in their shared consciousness. Luna couldn't create quantum tunnels like her ancestors, but she could do something else. She could redirect energy, channel it through the same pathways she perceived. Sarah's engineering knowledge merged with Luna's quantum awareness, forming a plan. "The auxiliary shield generators," she muttered. "If we reroute power through the maintenance systems." Her fingers flew across her tablet, implementing the changes that Luna showed her through their bond. They worked together seamlessly, human intuition and dragon perception combining to solve problems neither could handle alone. Sarah's authorized maintenance codes gave her enough access to make subtle changes to the shield configurations, guided by Luna's understanding of quantum fields. The flare hit with devastating force, but where the shields would have failed, they now bent and flexed, channeling the excess energy through pathways that shouldn't have existed. The station shuddered but held. In the aftermath, As engineers marveled at the shield's unexpected resilience, Sarah held Luna close in their hidden compartment. She knew they couldn't remain secret forever. Luna was growing quickly, and her influence on the station's systems would eventually be noticed. But for now, they had this moment. Luna had saved hundreds of lives, and no one even knew she existed. Through their bond, Sarah felt the dragon's satisfaction, her joy at protecting her new home. This was just the beginning, they both knew. Greater challenges lay ahead, but they would face them together. As if sensing her thoughts, Luna stretched her wings, letting starlight play across their surface. In that moment, Sarah understood something fundamental about humanity's place in the universe. It wasn't about having the most advanced technology or the most powerful weapons. It was about connection, about reaching across the boundaries of species and space to form bonds that could change worlds. Luna chirped softly, adding her own thought to the revelation. And about love, freely given and freely returned. Sarah smiled, scratching under the dragon's chin. Yeah, she agreed. That too. 2 months had transformed Luna from a fragile hatchling into a creature of breathtaking beauty. Her body now stretched longer than Sarah was tall, and her wings, when fully extended, could easily span the width of their hidden compartment. The dragon's scales shifted constantly between deep space black and brilliant stellar white, reflecting the quantum energies she perceived. Sarah sat cross-legged beside Luna, reviewing data on her tablet. The dragon's head rested in her lap, a comforting warmth against the station's perpetual chill. Through their bond, Sarah felt Luna's contentment mingled with an underlying concern. They both knew their time in hiding was running out. The station's engineers had begun noticing anomalies in the power grid, subtle fluctuations that coincided with Luna's attempts to help strengthen their shields. Each time the ion storm struck, the dragon instinctively reached out to protect their home, but her energy signature was becoming harder to disguise. "We need a better solution," Sarah muttered, scratching behind Luna's ears. "We can't keep." The dragon's head suddenly lifted, her entire body tensing. Through their connection, Sarah felt it. A massive disturbance in the quantum field. But this wasn't a natural phenomenon like the solar flare. This was deliberate, calculated, and familiar. The Meridian Merchant was returning. Luna's wings rustled nervously, creating cascades of light across the compartment walls. The dragon had grown strong enough to understand her own history now, to know why she had been abandoned. Her species had once been revered as the greatest navigators in known space, able to create stable pathways through quantum reality. But they had been hunted nearly to extinction by those who sought to control their power. "They won't take you," Sarah promised, her voice fierce. "I won't let them." But as emergency klaxons began to sound, announcing the arrival of an unexpected vessel, Sarah felt her confidence waver. How could she, a 12-year-old girl, stand against one of the most powerful merchant species in the galaxy? Luna pressed her snout against Sarah's chest, sharing images through their bond. She showed Sarah what she saw, not just the physical world, but the intricate quantum strings that connected all things. In Luna's perception, humans glowed with unique patterns, their consciousness creating ripples in space-time itself. And Sarah's pattern was intertwined with Luna's now, a connection deeper than mere ownership or control. "Sarah Chen, report to the main observation deck immediately." Director Collins's voice crackled over the station's comm system. "This is not a request." Sarah's heart sank. She'd known this moment would come, but she wasn't ready. Luna rose to her full height, wings half spread in a protective stance. The dragon's scales began to pulse with increasing intensity. "No," Sarah said softly, placing a hand on Luna's neck. "We can't hide anymore. But we're not separating either. We do this together." The walk to the observation deck felt like marching to execution. Luna moved silently beside her, her natural bioluminescence dimmed to near invisibility. The few crew members they passed stopped and stared, but no one tried to interfere. There was something in Luna's bearing, a quiet dignity that commanded respect despite her youth. The observation deck doors slid open to reveal a tense tableau. Director Collins stood with several security officers, their faces drawn with concern. And there, gleaming like liquid mercury in the starlight, was the Meridian merchant. Fascinating. The merchant's translated voice held no emotion. You've managed to bond with it despite its defects. Impressive. For a human child. Luna's scales flickered with indignation at the word defects. Through their bond, Sarah felt the dragon's rising anger, not at the insult to herself, but at the casual dismissal of human capability. Luna isn't defective, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She sees things differently. That's all. Better, even. She's been protecting the station for months. The Meridian's surface rippled. Protecting. Ah, the mysterious shield modifications. Clever, but ultimately futile. The dragon's true value lies in its quantum navigation abilities. Abilities it cannot utilize while blind. That's where you're wrong. Sarah stepped forward, Luna moving in perfect sync with her. She doesn't need physical sight to navigate quantum space. She perceives it directly, more clearly than any instruments you have. And she chooses to use that ability to help us. Choice. The Meridian's tone turned harsh. These creatures were engineered for a purpose. They exist to serve, not to choose. Luna's response was immediate and dramatic. Her scales erupted with light, and through their bond, Sarah felt her channel pure quantum energy. The air between them shimmered as Luna revealed what she saw. The endless dance of possibility, the streams of probability that flowed through reality itself. The Meridian actually took a step back, their perfect surface showing ripples of disturbance. Impossible. The genetic modifications should have prevented her from reaching her full potential. Sarah finished. Maybe that's your problem. You see differences as defects, limitations as failures. But sometimes what you think is a weakness turns out to be strength. As if to emphasize her point, the station's warning systems suddenly blared to life. Critical system failure detected, the AI announced. Main power core destabilizing. Containment breach imminent. The Meridian's form shifted rapidly, patterns of agitation visible across their surface. A convenient distraction, but this is no distraction. Director Collins interrupted, checking his monitors. Something's interfering with our core's quantum matrix. The containment fields are collapsing. Luna's head snapped toward the center of the station, her wings spreading wide. Through their bond, Sarah saw what she perceived. A cascade of quantum disruptions, spreading outward from the power core like cracks in reality itself. It's the storm, Sarah realized, combining Luna's quantum sight with her engineering knowledge. The last solar flare changed something in the core's structure. It's causing a chain reaction. The Meridian moved toward the exit. Then this station is lost. My ship. No, Sarah said, her voice ringing with authority that surprised even her. Luna can stabilize it. But she'll need help, from all of us. The dragon's scales blazed with determination as she faced the challenge ahead. Through their bond, Sarah felt Luna's certainty. They could save the station, but it would take everything they had. And it would reveal, once and for all, exactly what a human girl and a blind dragon could accomplish together. The power core's containment chamber was a maelstrom of warning lights and screaming alarms. Emergency force fields flickered erratically, struggling to contain the growing quantum instability. Sarah ran alongside Luna, her mind racing as she combined the dragon's quantum vision with her own technical knowledge. Through their bond, she saw what Luna perceived. The core's quantum matrix twisting in impossible ways, reality itself beginning to fray around the edges. The solar flare hadn't just damaged their systems, it had fundamentally altered the underlying structure of space-time within the core. The containment fields are at 20% and falling. Director Collins announced, his voice tense as he worked at a control station. We need to evacuate. There's no time. Sarah interrupted. and nowhere to go. The quantum distortions would tear any escape pods apart. She turned to the Meridian, who hovered near the chamber entrance. Your ship's quantum drives. They operate on similar principles to Luna's navigation abilities, don't they? The Meridian's surface rippled with reluctant acknowledgement. Similar, yes, but far more controlled, more civilized. Then we need them. Sarah's voice carried an authority far beyond her years. Luna can stabilize the core, but she needs an anchor point, something to help her channel and direct the quantum energy. Out of the question, the Meridian responded, I will not risk my vessel on the theories of a child and a defective. Luna's roar cut through the chamber, her scales blazing with light. Through their bond, Sarah felt the dragon's fury, not just at the insult, but at the merchant's willingness to let hundreds die to protect their property. Luna spread her wings, and suddenly everyone in the chamber could see what she saw. The quantum realm manifested around them in stunning detail. Streams of probability flowed like rivers of light, showing possible futures branching and recombining. In one branch, the station exploded, the quantum cascade taking the Meridian ship with it. In another, they worked together, human and alien technology combining with Luna's unique abilities to save everyone. Fascinating, the Meridian whispered, their perfect surface showing genuine emotion for the first time. The genetic modifications were not a failure at all. They simply produced something unexpected. That's what happens when you stop trying to control everything, Sarah said, placing a hand on Luna's neck. Sometimes you have to trust and let things evolve naturally. She looked at Director Collins. Can you get me access to the core's main controls? The director hesitated only a moment before nodding. Done. But Sarah, what you're attempting, the energies involved, could kill us all, she finished. But we're dead anyway if we do nothing. She turned to the Meridian. Your ship, please. The merchant's surface rippled through complex patterns before settling. Very well. I will establish the quantum link. But know that if this fails, if my ship is damaged, it won't fail, Sarah said with quiet confidence. She felt Luna's agreement through their bond. The dragon understood exactly what needed to be done. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The Meridian interfaced with their ship, creating a stable quantum field that encompassed the station. Director Collins and his engineers worked to reroute power, giving Sarah and Luna direct access to the core's systems. Around them, reality itself seemed to bend and flex as the quantum cascade grew stronger. Core containment at 5%, the station's AI announced. Critical failure imminent. Luna moved to the center of the chamber, her wings spread wide. Sarah stayed connected through their bond, her hands flying over the control panel as she translated the dragon's quantum perception into technical adjustments. They worked in perfect synchronization, two minds joined in single purpose. Through Luna's senses, Sarah saw the problem in its entirety. The solar flare hadn't just damaged the core. It had created a kind of quantum knot, a twist in space-time that was pulling reality apart at the seams. They couldn't simply contain it or shut it down. They had to untangle it. Luna began to glow, her scales pulsing with pure quantum energy. The dragon's consciousness expanded, reaching out to touch the twisted strands of reality within the core. Through their bond, Sarah felt everything. The strain as Luna grappled with forces that could tear her apart, the careful precision needed to manipulate quantum strings without breaking them. The Meridian ship added its power to Luna's efforts, creating a stable framework within which she could work. Sarah's fingers danced across the controls, making microscopic adjustments to help channel and direct the energies flowing through the chamber. Core containment at 2%, the AI warned. 90 seconds to critical failure. Sweat dripped down Sarah's face as she pushed herself to keep up with Luna's quantum manipulations. The dragon was operating on levels of reality Sarah could barely comprehend, using her unique perception to see solutions no normal being could conceive. Through their bond, Sarah felt Luna's pain as the quantum energies threatened to overwhelm her. But she also felt the dragon's determination, her absolute refusal to let her new home be destroyed. Luna wasn't just fighting to save the station. She was fighting to prove that being different, being defective in the eyes of others, didn't make you weak. Core containment failing. Wait. The AI's voice shifted. Quantum matrix stabilizing. Containment levels rising. Sarah watched in awe as Luna literally rewove reality, straightening the twisted quantum strands and restoring normal space-time. The dragon's scales blazed like captured starlight as she worked. Her consciousness expanded to encompass the very fabric of existence. The warning lights began to fade. The alarms fell silent. Through their bond, Sarah felt Luna's exhausted satisfaction as the last quantum distortions smoothed away. They had done it. Together. As the emergency force fields powered down, Sarah rushed to Luna's side. The dragon was trembling with exhaustion, her scales dimmed to a soft glow. But through their connection, Sarah felt only pride and joy. They had faced an impossible challenge and overcome it through trust and cooperation. The meridian approached slowly, their surface showing complex patterns of what might have been respect. Perhaps, they said softly, we have all been viewing capability too narrowly. Sarah smiled, scratching under Luna's chin as the dragon leaned against her. There's always more than one way to see things, she replied. Sometimes you just need to be willing to look differently. Director Collins cleared his throat. The station is secure, but we need to talk about what happens next. He looked at Sarah and Luna meaningfully. All of us. Sarah nodded, feeling Luna's agreement through their bond. They had saved the station, but this was just the beginning. There would be questions, decisions, and likely more challenges ahead. But whatever came next, they would face it together. The girl who dared to trust, and the dragon who proved that sometimes the greatest strengths come from our supposed weaknesses. 3 days after saving Nova Station, Sarah stood in the newly designated Dragon Bay, watching Luna soar through the repurposed cargo hold. The space had been cleared and reinforced to serve as both living quarters and training area for the station's most unique resident. Luna's scales caught the light as she banked and turned, practicing the precise movements needed for quantum navigation. Through their bond, Sarah felt the dragon's joy in flight, mixed with anticipation for what was to come. Today would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire station. Director Collins had spent the past days in constant communication with Earth's Space Administration, explaining the situation and advocating for Luna's official recognition as a sentient being with full rights. The Meridian Merchant, surprisingly, had supported their case, providing detailed data on Luna's unique abilities and their potential applications. She's getting stronger, a familiar voice observed. Sarah turned to see the Meridian approaching, their liquid metal form reflecting Luna's aerial display, and more precise in her movements. She's learning to combine physical and quantum navigation, Sarah explained, feeling Luna's agreement through their bond. She says the two aren't really separate. Everything physical has a quantum aspect, if you know how to perceive it. The Meridian's surface showed patterns of genuine interest. We believed her blindness would prevent such integration. Yet another assumption proven wrong. They paused, their next words careful. The Coalition of Merchant Species has reviewed my reports. They are intrigued by the possibilities. Sarah tensed slightly, but Luna sent calming thoughts through their bond. The dragon understood the implications better than anyone. Her kind had been nearly destroyed by those who sought to control their abilities. But this was different. This time, they were offering partnership, not demanding servitude. They want to establish Nova Station as a hub for quantum navigation research. The Meridian continued, with Luna as a teacher, not a subject. Her unique perspective could revolutionize interstellar travel, if she chooses to share it. The emphasis on choice was not lost on Sarah. Through their bond, she felt Luna's thoughtful consideration. The dragon landed beside them, her scales shifting through patterns that reflected her contemplation. She'll help, Sarah said, translating Luna's emotions and intentions. But on her terms, no more treating differences as defects. No more assuming there's only one right way to perceive reality. The meridian's surface rippled in what might have been amusement. Your species has a remarkable capacity for changing the parameters of any situation. It is unsettling, but occasionally useful. Their conversation was interrupted by the station's eye. Attention all personnel. Quantum disturbance detected in Sector 7. Class 3 ion storm approaching. Sarah straightened, feeling Luna's immediate shift to alertness. They had been expecting this, the first real test of their new role as Nova Station's protectors. Through their bond, she saw what Luna perceived. Massive quantum distortions approaching like waves in spacetime itself. Director Collins, we're ready to begin. Sarah called over the comm. Around them, the station hummed as systems engaged according to their new protocols. Luna spread her wings, scales blazing with inner light. But instead of fighting the storm directly, she began to weave quantum energy in complex patterns, creating safe corridors through the disturbance. It was an entirely new approach, born from her unique way of perceiving reality. The Meridian watched with undisguised fascination. Remarkable. She's not just redirecting the energy. She's restructuring local spacetime to create permanent stable zones. Sarah nodded, her hands moving across a control panel as she helped coordinate the station's systems with Luna's efforts. She says everything's connected. The storms, the station, the quantum fields, they're all part of the same dance. You just have to understand the rhythm. Through their bond, she felt Luna's satisfaction as the safe corridors took shape. Ships would be able to use these paths even during the worst storms, guided by quantum beacons that resonated with the frequencies Luna established. Nova Station calling all vessels. Director Collins's voice echoed through the bay. Safe passage confirmed. Welcome to humanity's first quantum sanctuary. The name felt right. That's what they had created here, not just a trading post or a research facility, but a true sanctuary where different species and perspectives could come together, where limitations could become strengths. Luna landed next to Sarah, wrapping one wing around her protectively as they watched ships begin to approach through the newly established corridors. Through their bond, Sarah felt the dragon's contentment and growing sense of purpose. This was what Luna had been meant for, not to be a weapon or a power source, but a bridge between different ways of seeing and understanding the universe. The Meridian moved toward the exit, then paused. The Coalition has a saying, the surest path is not always the straightest. We thought ourselves masters of quantum navigation, but perhaps we were too fixed in our perspective. Sometimes it takes a blind dragon and a human child to show us new ways of seeing. Sarah smiled, leaning against Luna's warm scales. That's what humans do best. We adapt, we connect, we find ways to turn challenges into opportunities. And now, thanks to Luna, we can help others do the same. Through their bond, Luna shared a vision of the future, Nova Station growing into a thriving hub of interstellar cooperation, a place where differences were celebrated and new possibilities were born from the combination of diverse perspectives. It would take time and effort, but they had already proven that the most unlikely partnerships could yield the most extraordinary results. As if to emphasize the point, another ship emerged from quantum space, its sensors already attuned to Luna's guidance beacons. Soon there would be more, drawn by the promise of safe passage and the chance to learn from a unique partnership between species. Sarah scratched under Luna's chin, feeling the dragon's pleased rumble vibrate through her chest. They had started with a simple act of compassion, a girl refusing to let a supposedly defective creature be abandoned. That choice had led them here, to a future neither of them could have imagined alone. Ready for what comes next? Sarah asked, though she already felt Luna's answer through their bond. The dragon's scales shimmered with starlight as she raised her head proudly. Through their connection, her response came clear and strong. Ready for everything. Together, they watched the stars through Nova Station's reinforced windows, no longer seeing a harsh and unforgiving void, but a universe full of possibilities waiting to be explored by those brave enough to see things differently.